Guy, HMR here, with another comment response. There are so many, and I'm so behind, and I've got lots that are recorded, many in audio, and doing some new ones in video now. But I recorded many that are in audio, and just can't even get them up right now. So in this video, I hesitate. Should I mention this or not? So the medical weight issue that I have and etc. is more of a problem again, but it might be hard to tell if you're looking at shorts. But bottom line is, I just wanted to say I've seen some incredible troll comments out there, and people think, or some people think, that at this point of me here is, say like breasts, right? And it's not, because this falls down when I get up, and when I sit down, it comes back up on me, and so there somewhere. But please just know that if I do this, it's like it's not on my breast, and I hate to say that, I hate to even mention it, but there are so many kooky people out there that are trolls that say this kind of stuff. So anyways, on we go. So on a short that I think, I put it up sometime today, but I have no idea when I recorded it. The commenter says, so the short was one golden rule, BPD relationships work only if ... Wonder how that could work. So anyway, watch the short, and there'll be more coming on that too. Commenter leaves this comment. So when they ghost, silent treatment, make you feel incompetent. No, sorry. When they make you feel, I think I see words, but when they make you feel unimportant, in that moment, that feels right to them due to their mental illness. Well, first of all, when people with BPD ghost or give the silent treatment or rage and yell or whatever the case may be, they are not, yes, you can feel really unimportant. But guess what? Even when they're not doing that, you're not as important as you might think you are to them. That's the tragedy of all this. And the thing about that is, in that moment, it feels right to them due to their mental... No, it's not about whether it feels right or wrong. I mean, would they say they're doing the right thing? Would they ever take personal responsibility to say, oh, geez, I really shouldn't have done that, and mean it and change it? Well, no, not without a tremendous amount of years of treatment. But the thing is, people with BPD aren't just doing it. I guess they might think they're doing it because it feels right, and they're right and you're all wrong. That black and white way that they think about things, how they project so much out onto you too that has nothing to do with you. I think it's really key just to not think that in that moment it feels right to them. It might feel right to them, but it's not really about right and wrong. It's more to the point about what they can't take responsibility for and what they can't handle. And, what borderline personality disorder really is and means, and the disorganized attachment and the inability to really connect, and the approach avoidance conflict, which is why if you get close and it's kind of going well, engulfment anxiety rises and they have to push you away. And then they push you away, and then they claim that you abandoned them. And then they want to pull you back in because they're feeling abandoned. And that just happens, back and forth. There's no resolving that in a relationship with somebody with BPD. They have to do that in years and years of therapy. So then the commenter continues, when reality hits later, and they see that they caused an issue or pain, do they really feel remorse? Well, first of all, when reality hits later, doesn't always hit everybody with BPD later. Some people just don't ever get that message. Some people just don't have that awareness. They don't know the difference between their lack of self and other. So for a lot of people with BPD, they don't really ever get it. Now, they might say something from their intellect and say, well, yeah, that was probably like not a good thing I did, or and they might try to explain it. But a lot of people, with BPD, if you ask them, or reality, you're waiting for reality to hit later, but it just doesn't hit. Because if you ask them something later, they'll be like, what are you talking about? I didn't do that. Or, well, so what if I raise my voice a little? It's no big deal. Well, yeah, like I threw that thing across the wall. It says, "Is that still stuck in the wall?" Well, stuff happens, like they're not really taking any personal responsibility or accountability. So not everybody with BPD, especially untreated patterns of not even diagnosed, they're not really going to come to this reality hitting moment. Now, might they come to you and say something very sort of vague or not exactly true about what happened? Or if you push it, will they say something like, oh, gee, yeah, well, I'm sorry, or, I don't know, like, yeah, that won't ever happen again. I don't know what happened there, like, but, it won't ever happen again. Well, of course it's gonna happen again and again and again and again. And so most people with BPD don't have that reality hit moment really, even if it looks like it, even if you're trying to talk to them about it, even if they'll say anything about it, as opposed to getting you into the jade conversation, the circular. You end up, you ask, well, why did this happen? Well, and like all I said was, and you just started screaming at me and you threw stuff at me. And what was that about? Because, and the next thing you know, they'll be like, what are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. No way. I didn't do, no, you're the one who does this stuff to me. They'll just reverse it. They'll distract. They'll go 6 topics to the left. And the thing is, when you get in that jade, that's you justifying, arguing, defending, and explaining. So, but the commenter asks, when reality hits later on, if it does, right? I'm inserting that. And they see that they caused an issue of pain, do they really feel remorse and concern for who they hurt? Or do they feel bad for themselves since they are getting called out for doing it? Great question, because most often with untreated people with BPD, but even people with some treatment, it's not enough. I got a dog here who's going to start trouble with the other one. Grace, hey, go lay down, please. So, a great question. So, do people, if with BPD, if the reality hits them later on, well, the whole reality isn't going to hit them later on because they don't have that clear understanding. Now, some may intellectually want to say something real quick to please you so that you're not like going to give them big consequences or whatever, like that kind of thing. But emotionally, that doesn't really hit them. Now, are there some people with BPD after really bad, poor behavior, etc., that really will feel horrible, really will feel remorse and guilt? Yes, there are many people who will feel that. But when they're feeling that, they're just triggered and emotionally dysregulated with that. But often they can't say anything about it. Often they won't really look like they had a reality hit them moment because they can't stand to try to share the vulnerability of like, oh wow, I can't believe I did that. Some may, but most don't, without treatment. Oh wow, I can't believe that happened, and I do feel really horrible. But see, even if you get that from somebody with BPD, it's not anything that you can hang your hat on that's going to create change. That the same thing isn't going to happen over again. As I've explained in other videos, and I call these are the ruptures in relationships. So it's not only they're triggered to emotional dysregulation, etc., which then distorts a whole bunch of things, and they're in projective identification, projecting, you become the object of the parent representation of either a good parent never had or horrible parents, or it depends. It's not the same with everyone. And so if they have this, when reality hits the moment about any kind of behavior, do they really feel concern or remorse for who they hurt? Or do they feel bad for themselves for being called out? Well, often some people with BPD will seem like they do feel bad because they are feeling guilt, remorse, and they might be feeling a ton of stuff inside. And some of them couldn't identify these feelings, and some of them would know, oh man, or they feel guilty or what have you. But when they're that emotionally dysregulated, when they can't take responsibility for their behavior, when sharing anything vulnerable feels like it's going to off you, so to speak, then they're much more concerned about, they're not so much concerned about who they hurt or what they did to you or how they impacted you negatively. No, 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 no. Not without a lot of treatment. They are definitely feeling bad for themselves. And they might even project out if you tried to call them out. They might even say, well, but you did whatever and you made me and it's all your fault. If you just, weren't late coming home, or if you just didn't say this, or if you needed to say this and you didn't help me and blah, 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 blah. And it's not really reality based. Grace, leave him alone, please. So with this, they do feel much primarily, without a ton of treatment and a lot of years. So untreated or not well enough treated, they definitely are going to be feeling bad for themselves and not really feeling for you. And these are the ruptures, episodes of ruptures, rupture after rupture, where you get no closure. And no, they're not feeling bad for you. They're feeling bad for themselves because they have disorganized attachment. They don't attach. They don't connect. They don't really even take in love because they don't have a self to contain it, nor do they really feel deep down that, but they might not realize that they don't feel worthy of it. And they're not able to really love you in any healthy, congruent, consistent, age-appropriate way. So what all of this means is, no, everything for the person with BPD is always about how they feel. It's always about what's happening for them because they have a repetition compulsion of constantly repeating when many of them were victimized in childhood. But in every rupture, in every situation that will occur, which they often don't have any ideas about or control over, which is not an excuse. They still need to get into treatment and therapy and learn how to take personal responsibility and learn how to find themselves and learn that others are really negatively impacted and traumatized by their behavior. But generally speaking, no, unless and until they've had enough treatment to be able to stop the behavior in the first place and take responsibility for things and understand how it affects the other person, it's going to be all about the borderline. So they feel bad, they might feel guilty, they might have remorse, but all these feelings, they just basically jumble together in a way where they don't have a container of self to do anything with all of these emotions. And that's one of the reasons, it's an explanation, not an excuse for them, why they just blow up a lot or give you the silent treatment or whatever it is they do. And then you want to know, why did that just happen? And because you're hurt and you want them to know that, but they don't hear that unless until they've had enough treatment to not be behaving like that in the first place. So the people with BPD after silent treatment or ghosting or anything they can do like that, or if they're raging and whatever, but they make you feel exceedingly unimportant. It's very hurtful, very wounding. It's very confusing for people when you're trying to love the person with BPD and you're feeling like you're not being seen or heard because you're really not being seen or heard. And so, no, they really, for many of them, that reality moment never really hits. And many of them can talk a good intellectual game about that and kind of know what you want to hear and sort of have some idea of what to say, but it's not really them understanding in a deep emotional way. It's not really them taking personal responsibility. It's them manipulating, and after ghosting especially too. Most people with BPD that will still be in a pattern of ghosting and silent treatment, etc. And then they come back and you take them back, and what are they gonna? They usually never own it. They usually never take any responsibility, and for a lot of people with BPD, like I said, untreated patterns of, not even diagnosed, unless exceedingly well successfully treated, and so they're not behaving like this anymore. When you're being ghosted in a regular patterned way or given the silent treatment, etc., then no, they haven't had enough treatment. They don't understand what's happening to you at all. And they don't even really kind of have the space from a lack of self to care because everything is about what's going on for them. Everything is about what they need, how bad they're feeling, how much you're supposed to be for them, the object other parent representation of a good parent never had, or whatever the case is, but you're just supposed to be. they're mommy and daddy all rolled into one. You're supposed to know what they want. You're supposed to know what they need. You're not ever supposed to hold them to accountability. And when you try to hold them responsible or accountable, that's not the only reason that they're going to dig in their heels. They'll either try to people please you there with stuff that they don't even understand often in an intellectual way, like, well, whatever you want to hear. But it's just going to happen all over again. Pattern, especially when people with BPD, if they have discouraged BPD, the subtype, quiet borderline, they're going to go the silent treatment. They're going to then ghost. Many of them have patterns of ghosting ad infinitum, like every 2 weeks, once a week, once a month, once every 6, whatever the pattern is. And nothing can interrupt that pattern, nor can they take personal responsibility for it, and nor are they thinking about anybody but themselves. And that's a big reason why a lot of people probably need to not be in these types of relationships with people who maybe you're hoping they're going to get treatment. Maybe you think it could work, but it's not going to work out if they don't have treatment. And then if you have codependency, which most people really do with people with BPD, the thing is, and borderlines have codependency really severely, plus other things. And some codependents have a little bit more of dependent personality type stuff. And I'm going to be talking more about that in depth, probably on my codependency podcast when I get around to doing something with that, because I still haven't got episodes up. But here's the point. The real takeaway point, you're not going to get seen and heard by that borderline. The relationship is not tenable to go on with out of false hope. Maybe you're denying your codependency. Maybe you have false hope that they still love you. They love you somehow with all this crazy behavior and all this painful stuff. And then, well, maybe they'll go to therapy. Maybe they'll change. Maybe, you can put up with it because, well, when it's good, it's so good. But when it's bad, the trauma bond, the intermittent reinforcement, and what are you repeating in your life if you're with somebody with BPD doing all this to you, and whether it's once or over and over again, and you keep taking them back because you don't know how to live with them, but you don't know how to live without them, that's where you need to get into therapy. And I'm not here to work with you, but I resonate with you. Because no, unless and until somebody is treated to the point where they're not going to be behaving the way that this commenter describes the person with BPD in their life has been behaving, for many, there's never that moment of reality and any real, congruent, kind of emotional understanding way. They might intellectually dance around something, but they're not taking personal responsibility and accountability when it keeps happening. Because when it keeps happening, that's your cue right there to know that they don't get it at all. And it's always about the borderline for the borderline. And they're not going to be able to come out of that tumult and chaos that they have internally of a lack of self to understand, like, you felt what? And I did what? And I should care about that. Why exactly? Because they are the consummate victims of life. So they all feel and think. And so, what do you mean you need something? What do you mean? This is what borderlines will be saying or kind of probably thinking in a way, puzzled way. What do you mean, like, I hurt you because of this, that, the other thing? Like, seriously, what's the matter with you? You did a boy, you did a kid, I mean, they can say these things, right? And it's horrible. It's just more abuse on top of it. And so don't be looking for them to have this reality moment that's actually going to fix anything or change anything, because in these relationships, if they go on for a while, there are thousands of ruptures, thousands of these issues that happen where you're not seen and you're not heard. And no, they're not concerned about how you feel. They're all about how they feel, whether they know that or not. And the other thing is, you can't really pin them down, and you won't get closure to any one of these friggin' episodes if there are thousands of them in a few years or more of being in a relationship with this person with BPD for each of you, the individual you're with or were with. If you stay there and you keep thinking that whatever they do say matters, or they hear you or they see you, you're in a fantasyland bonded place of intermittent reinforcement, because maybe they're gonna like give you some nice make-up physical relations even though they don't admit anything, etc. And so the cycle comes around again. But the truth about the borderline cycle is that there is no repair stage. There seems to be a repair stage because And maybe they come back and then something happens, but you don't really get seen or heard, and you're like, you get exhausted by it. And then comes time where they start getting all, flirty and seductive, and a male with BPD can do this too to a female. And the thing is, so then you're like, well, and maybe you just let it go because you're so sick and tired of going in circles, you're all confused, and you're like, oh, well, here comes more of the good then. But there's no closure, nothing gets resolved. And when they keep doing this, what you need to know is they're going to keep doing it. It's borderline unconscious repetition compulsion cycles. They lack a self, they don't see you, they don't hear you, they can't put you first. Your feelings friggin' don't matter when theirs are blowing up, exploding all over the place, internally and or externally. And all the tumult and chaos that they're in internally, it's going to be all your fault, etc., etc. There's no closures to these ruptures, each and every one of them, let alone no closure at the end of the relationships for most people. But this is a big red flag that you need out. Because if you're looking for them to have that reality moment and take responsibility, no. Because if they could do that, they would be treated, they would be working their way out of BPD, and they would be working their way toward recovery. And yes, in recovery, people, if they're in serious therapy and they're really doing the work, people with BPD can heal and recover. They can unlearn all these defense mechanisms. They can stop splitting. They can find self and be a congruent, age-appropriate, consistent person. But you can't hang into a relationship, hold on to the false hope that you're going to get that anytime soon, because it takes generally 8, they say, but 10 to 16 years for somebody with BPD to actually really, really do that healing recovery work and be able to have changed all the defense mechanisms, all the splitting, the suspension of empathy and splitting and triggered to dysregulated emotion. What this commenter is describing and what you're seeing is just going to keep repeating and repeating and repeating. So please take note of that. Think about it, because if you're not ready to get out yet, you really maybe should get some help. Out here to work with anybody that resonates with me on any aspect of this, to find out, why are you putting up with this? Why is this okay for you? Because it's not okay for you. It's hurting you. It's rewounding and rewounding you. It's helping you to lose yourself. It's the trauma bond. It's the intermittent reinforcement of the trauma bond. And you need to get into therapy if you're not already, and work with somebody so that you can begin to understand the process of how you can cope with getting out of this, just ongoing roller coaster that no amount of reality no amount oh boy sorry no amount of reality hitting them, it doesn't really work that way. And they're not changing, and if they're not in therapy, you're not going to be able to rescue them, fix them, change them, or explain it to them if you try from now until HE double hockey sticks freezes the you-know-what over. So hope that's helpful. Hope that helps people if they're in this indecisive place of I don't know what to do, and you're still stuck in that unhealthy bond of the intermittent reinforcement. This is impossible, and you do not deserve this. You deserve so much more. Time for you to get out of there into a process of recovery, which I work with people. I've been doing it for 35 years. Out here to work with you if I resonate with you. I might have said that a time or two too many. Point is that people need to make change. People need to get out of these relationships to be able to heal their codependency, heal the wounded inner child. What happened in your childhood that you think this is love, that you think you just got to keep giving to them no matter what they do to you, because they don't see you or hear you. They just do stuff to you as if you're someone that's done stuff to them. Just untenable relationships.